Welcome to the Heidelberg Transition Town Hall meeting, live from Patrick Henry Village.
Okay, well, can I go ahead and start? Giddy up. Hey, welcome everyone. It's good to have you here. Hey, for those who don't know me, I'm Jim Boozer. I'm your Deputy Commanding General for U.S. Army Europe, and I really want to welcome you all here today to this forum. This is one probably in a series of forums that we're going to have to provide information for the USAR workforce and the Installation Management Command Europe workforce that resides and works here in Heidelberg, so that you can prepare yourself and your families for our move to Wiesbaden. First, I'd like to just welcome our Commanding General, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, for being here today. He'll come up and have some remarks here once I'm done with some introductory remarks. I also want to welcome all the folks in AFN land and on Facebook who are piping into this. I got to tell you, to pull something like this off is a huge undertaking. So I want to up front thank the USAR PAO, our Vice Media, certainly AFN, and both of our garrison teams that are so very involved in what we're about to do and what we're going to talk to you about today. And that's our U.S. Army Garrison Wiesbaden team, headed by Colonel Dave Carsons, and our U.S. Army Garrison Baden-Württemberg team, headed by Colonel Brian DaCosta. And I want to thank them both for being here, because you're going to have experts here in the room that can really address just about all of your issues. And so you should be able to walk away with a lot of questions answered. We also have the leadership of U.S. Army Europe here. All of the principal staff is here from U.S. Army Europe headquarters, and so that is another venue, another capability we have here to help address some of these questions. I think you're all aware that the real focus today for this forum is so Dave Carsons and his team can provide you information in terms of the services that this great garrison is going to be able to provide to you all as you think about your move to Wiesbaden Army Airfield. Break. I said Wiesbaden Army Airfield. Something I want you all to know, and because this is all about information sharing, is this summer we're going to have a renaming ceremony of the Wiesbaden Army Airfield. And we're going to name a couple other facilities and the housing area up there that's being constructed, those 326 sets of quarters, and some other things on Wiesbaden Army Airfield. But we're going to call Wiesbaden Army Airfield Clay Concern. And that name was selected because the man that carried that name, General Lucius Clay, who was also a previous commanding general of U.S. Army Europe, was really the father of the Berlin airlift. He's the one that made sure those supplies got in, and most of that operation occurred out of the Wiesbaden Army Airfield. And we've selected a week there to try to nail down a date, and we're in the process of doing that, but it'll be somewhere between the 8th of June and the 15th of June. The 8th of June, oh, by the way, happens to commemorate the 7th anniversary of U.S. Army Europe. And, of course, the 14th of June is our Army's birthday. So somewhere in there, we're going to nail down with our local officials in Wiesbaden a good time to have a naming ceremony, Wiesbaden Army Airfield, the Clay Concern, as well as a ball to celebrate those events, both the anniversary of U.S. Army Europe, the Army Birthday Ball, and U.S. Army Europe headquarters moving to Wiesbaden. And so that's kind of out there this summer, much more to follow. The Wiesbaden staff if you don't know, is very adept at doing the business about what they're getting ready to do in terms of assisting us. They received the 5th Signal Command a couple of years ago in Wiesbaden. Just this past summer, they received the 5th Corps, and they also were key players in moving the 1st Armored Division headquarters back to Fort Bliss, Texas. And so I think we're going to be able to address all of your questions and issues today. If it does not come up, most of the information we're going to provide you resides on the U.S. Army Europe webpage. You can go to the relocation portal on the USARA homepage or the G1 homepage at the USARA website. And so I urge you to use those. You'll find there all of the business rules that we've developed and put in place to make this move happen. So whether it's, how much temporary living allowance can I draw? When can I start my move? All of those questions have been answered in terms of business rules, and I urge you to go in and review those. So with that, let me take a pause here, and before we turn it over to Dave Carsons, let's let our Commanding General address the audience here for a moment. Sir?
Thanks, Jim. And first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Just got back from another country visit, and prior to that, what I wanted to share with you all is something that is going to be significant within the next 24 hours. I can't give you specific details because, frankly, it's on hold with Department of Defense until 1600 this afternoon. That will allow me to talk directly to commanders, and then 1930 tonight, and it's all based on East Coast time, for me to talk to some German officials and to release some things to the press. But if you have been watching the USARA webpage or some of the newspaper articles lately, you know that there is about to be some specific announcements related to the force structure in U.S. Army Europe. And over the last couple of weeks, Sue and I have been going around to different communities, Baumholder, Grafenwehr, Vincenza, Italy, Schweinfurt, Ansbach, Bamberg, and a few others. And I just thought that this community here, before you get into the very fine details of the transfer of the USARA headquarters from Heidelberg to Wiesbaden and all the things associated with that, I thought I owed you some of the same kind of information that I've been telling those other communities in family forums. And we've spent anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours with each one of those communities, letting them know, as most we could with the information that we could allow to be released, some of the things that are occurring. Today, this evening, the Secretary of Defense will have a press conference. He has said some things in the last couple of weeks that's been in all the newspapers about 2 brigades leaving Europe. Those things are true. Okay? He has even said there are 2 heavy brigades leaving Europe. And when you make the connection between 2 brigades leaving Europe and 2 heavy brigades leaving Europe, you sort of know which ones those are, even though we're not allowed to say which ones they are, because we only have 2 heavy brigades over here. And one of them just returned from Afghanistan. In fact, they're in the process of returning right now. There's about, I think about 400 or 500 more soldiers that are coming in over the next week that will come back for the 170th up in Baumholder. And the 172nd down in Grafenwehr will come back next summer from Afghanistan. They are totally deployed with a little bit of a rear detachment down at Graf. So if you know there are 2 brigades leaving, and they are going to come relatively soon, you could probably conclude which one might go first. And that would be sooner than the other one, okay? But what will happen tonight is there will be a formal announcement of when that will happen. And I will tell you, as Sue and I have traveled around to all the different communities and we've told people, relax. Or in infantry language, take a knee, drink some water, everything's going to be fine. There are going to be things happening over the next year that is going to somewhat put U.S. Army Europe in a little bit of a churn. We're going to be spinning a little bit. There are a lot of moves taking place. There are things happening in Grafenwehr, in Baumholder, in Bamberg and Schweinfurt, in Ansbach to a degree. We still have some forces that are going off to war. 5th Corps up in Wiesbaden will soon become the IJC headquarters in Afghanistan. The 12th Cab out of Ansbach will soon depart in the spring between May and June to do a rotation in Afghanistan. The 173rd out of split base between Vicenza, Italy, and their northern bases in Bamberg and Schweinfurt will depart in the summer. So we will still have units participating in conflict in Afghanistan while we're also moving other units around, inactivating, and moving the headquarters to Wiesbaden. But other than that, we have absolutely nothing to do. Okay? So as you ask your questions of the folks up here on this panel, and Dave Karstens and his team, and Brian DeCoster and his team here in Heidelberg, what I have told every other community we've gone to is job number one, no kidding, is taking care of people. Because there is a lot of angst that goes along with any of these kind of moves. There are jobs, there are movement of families, there's connection to school children, graduating or continuing their year. And what I tell you is, I can guarantee you one thing. We will not get it right in every single case. We won't. But the folks who are charged with taking care of people are waking up every day saying, how do we best get it right for as many people as we can? And what they need from you all is assistance in this. And as you ask your questions today, or as Dave addresses you and tells you what's going on, remember that you are part of this team. That people are not going to be doing things just for you, but we've got to do things for each other. That's the whole strong soldier, strong team concept that we've been trying to advertise over the last couple of months. So stay with us on this. Help out where you can. If you see something that's going totally remiss and the train is completely off the track, please let somebody know. And instead of complaining about it, offer suggestions regarding it. Help us, as they once said in a great movie, Jerry Maguire, help us help you. Okay? I think we're going to get through this together. There is a lot of churn. I think at the end, USER will be a better place. They will be better positioned to help the United States Army, to help the United States government, and to help our security concerns throughout the world. Things are happening. Someone said to me the other day, hey, this is the end of an era. Yes, it is. It is the end of an old era and the beginning of a new one. It is no longer a large force in Europe. It is something we have been planning for the last 10 years. All of these moves have been in the works since 2002, believe it or not. And what will begin this summer is the final step. Believe it or not, the final step of USER transformation was the move of the headquarters from Heidelberg to Wiesbaden. This is the last bit of churn. And when it's complete by the summer of 2013, we will be set in the kind of stance we need as soldiers, as family members, to better contribute to the national security of the United States. This is what we do. We're given missions and we execute them. And we've been trying to execute this one for 10 years and we're at the final stages of it. So please help us as we do this. And now I'm going to turn it back to my good buddy Jim Boozer so he can carry on with this presentation. Okay, Jim.
Okay, well, thanks. This is always a good thing to say. The boss was spot on. I mean, I don't think I could have said I know I couldn't have said it any better. And he's right. We're not going to get this all right. We're absolutely not going to get this all right. But these kind of forums help us get it more right. And so encourage you to listen to the information, encourage you to ask your questions, encourage you that if you know the answer, provide the answer. The only administrative piece I want to put out is when you come to ask your questions, you will have to come up to the podium to present your question because we do have this on live, AFN, Facebook, and streaming. And so with that, I am now going to turn it over to the great. No, I'm not.
I forgot one thing, and then I'll turn it back. We did something called an embargoed interview with Stars and Stripes about 2 weeks ago, actually, and the poor reporter is about ready to kill us because he thought he was going to release the information earlier. We believe that embargoed interview will be unembargoed at about 21:30 tonight. So if you want to hear the details of the things I just talked to you about, read Stars and Stripes tomorrow. You will is there a Stars and Stripes reporter in here? Okay, you will never hear me ever say this, usually. Read Stars and Stripes tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, so I'm going to write that down. Okay, so now, without any further ado, I'm going to turn this thing over to the capable Dave Carsons. Dave, giddy up. Go ahead.
Good. All right, everybody, good afternoon. Great to see all these smiling faces out here. Lieutenant General Hertling, Major General Boozer, distinguished guests. We've got members of the U.S. Army Europe staff here and their families. Great to see you all. Of course, we have members of the Installation Management Command Europe staff here. Wonderful to see you as well. Family members, people on Armed Forces Network, our Facebook friends. What a great opportunity. I would like to issue one very special thanks today, and that is to our partners here in U.S. Army Garrison Baden-Württemberg. Brian, you and the team really set the conditions for this great event. Without you, this would not have been possible, so thank you very much. You know, Brian and I were talking about getting some great attendance for this, and so I think Brian put an information campaign out that the New York Giants are going to be here signing some autographs. That is not true. Unfortunately, it is just going to be us from U.S. Army Garrison Wiesbaden and members of the Wiesbaden community. So my apologies, but thank you all for attending. Here are some basic ground rules before we get started. Ground rule number one is there are a lot of questions out there, both in the audience and on Facebook. And with these questions, we are going to answer every single one of them. But it may not be today, because we've got a lot of information to go through. I've told the staff, the leadership that we have brought down from Wiesbaden, be brief, be gone, don't kill people with acronyms. But the fact of the matter is we got a lot of information to cover. So we're going to do that. As the questions come in, we are going to stay here tonight in the pavilion as long as we can, until such time as Brian DeCoster and the team kick us out. So we will be here. If you are on Facebook, we will get to your questions. It may not be during this interview. We're going to get to them. So keep sending them in, and we'll send a rollout of all the answers as part of our after-action review of this great process. The other thing I would like to say is, for those in the audience, please keep your questions to the end. So the basic theme of this seminar, this town hall that we are doing today, is that the community of Wiesbaden is a community in transition. But make no mistake about it, we are ready. We are ready, and we are happy to receive you all. Last night, I had the honor of speaking to the Chamber of Commerce in Wiesbaden. And we thought we were going to get about 100 or so members of the Wiesbaden community to talk to us. And instead of 100, we packed the house. We had about 250 community leaders from Wiesbaden, and the message was the same. We were there for, it was supposed to be a 1-hour event. We were there for about 3.5 hours, and everywhere we turned, the message was, boy, we cannot wait to get you here. We cannot wait to receive U.S. Army Europe. What can we do as a community to receive you? It was overwhelming. And in fact, we have brought a representative from the Chamber of Commerce who will help us by leading this presentation off, by telling all of us all of the great things that the community of Wiesbaden has to offer. And it does. Next slide, please. All right. I'm going to give you just a basic overview of what's in Wiesbaden, because for most of the people sitting in the room, that first slide that showed Wiesbaden Army Airfield, soon to be Clay Kaserne, as General Boozer told us, that is probably the only part of the Wiesbaden community that you may know. And that is absolutely not true, because there is so much more to offer, and each one of my leaders, staff members are going to tell you about some of those things. But in general, the community itself extends across this box that is about a 30 by 30 kilometer square. So it is a big community. And most of you are familiar with this piece right here, Wiesbaden Army Airfield, future home of U.S. Army Europe. And of course, I'm going to give you kind of a unique perspective of what is there. But the community is much more than where we work and where some of us will live at Wiesbaden Army Airfield, soon to be Clay Kaserne. We have got a portion of our services that exist about 6 to 7 kilometers away from there in Mainz-Castell and Mainz-Castell Station. That is where some of our specialty stores from AFES, some special organizations reside. Very few people live, but there is certainly Mainz-Castell Station. We have got a lot of housing that our housing director will talk about up in Auchem, about 7 kilometers away, Crestview, the Heidelberg area. And oh, by the way, in the Heidelberg housing area, not only do we have housing, but that is also where the main post exchange resides. That is where the commissary is at. That is where the high school is at, middle schools. So Heidelberg is almost a community unto itself. Dr. Schlosser, our FMWR director, be very happy to tell the golfers out there that we have got a world-class golf course that is under some great refurbishment at this point. It is part of a huge multi-million-dollar project to really make that golf course a world-class facility. It currently is, and it will continue to be. For all of those that work and train soldiers out there, we have got some incredible local training area opportunities that are run by, managed by the JMTC. We have got capability, all your record fire ranges. We have got a great mount site out there, excellent local training area capability. And what doesn't exist out there, our great partners from JMTC are quick to tell us that they can move it there to help host certain type training events. So we've got all of that. And meanwhile, we have got the beautiful Rhine River. We are almost in the heart of the wine-growing region of Europe. And it is just an incredibly beautiful area that has so much to offer, picturesque. And we are just thrilled to offer this to everyone that is coming up to Wiesbaden. The next thing I want to show you is a video presentation that really takes us into the transformation that is occurring at the Wiesbaden Army Airfield. Go ahead and switch that on, please. Now, as this takes us in to the airfield area, you see the airfield to the top of the slide there? And what we are going to see first is where most of the headquarters buildings, tenant units reside on the airfield itself. Stop. Here we've got one of the main roads that goes into the airfield complex. This does not currently exist, but this is a traffic control point that will exist to help channel some of the traffic that will be certainly going into the community. We are expecting upwards of 3,000 to 3,200 individuals to increase. So that is not only our soldiers and civilians that will be working, but also family members. Traffic is going to be an issue, and so this is one of these projects that is going to help channel and control some of that traffic. Go ahead, next slide. And now you can see Wiesbaden proper. Stop. A really beautiful mix of buildings that date back to the 1930s, former Luftwaffe headquarters, as well as the Mission Command Center, future home of U.S. Army Europe. Our world-class fitness center right here is actually the new 1,100 space parking garage that we just opened 48 hours ago. And so as we look at, where to channel traffic, where to park, I can tell you that parking space is no longer an issue. In fact, you can drive into work, you can park your car, you can eat in the dining facility, you can work out, hopefully not in that order. You can walk to the Mission Command Center, future home of U.S. Army Europe, less than 5 minutes away. So it is a wonderful mix of, where you can come in, where you can store your vehicle, where you can work out, and certainly where you can eat. Go ahead and keep running the video. You see some of the other buildings that comprise not just 5th Signal, but also 66th MI. Again, there's the gym as a reference point. And where we're going right now are the 326 housing units that will be opening up on what is currently South Wiesbaden Army Airfield. And this really, stop please. This is the loop where some of the general officers will be living. These are the single-family homes. This community is a great mix not only of housing, but also lots of parks, green space for children, and of course, all within walking distance of where many of you will be working. Go ahead, please. And we'll just let this run through. Now, this housing area will be open in June. And I got to tell you, in terms of construction projects, this has been just an incredible working partnership between our German contractors, between the Corps of Engineers, between the garrison. It's been a great project that was done at cost and certainly on time. Very proud of this, and many of you will get to see this very soon. All right, and I think that draws us to the close of this. Thank you. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right, here's the agenda for today. Again, start lining up your questions now. I think some have already begun to roll up on Facebook. We will address them at the end. Guaranteed, if you've got something that is of concern, it may be answered somewhere in this presentation, hence the reason we're keeping them till the end. Next slide. And without further ado, ma'am, we'll turn it over to the state capital of Hessen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon and show you some pictures and give you some information on Wiesbaden, the state capital of Hessen. Next slide, please. Just as a brief information on the geography, again, Wiesbaden is 30 minutes from Frankfurt International Airport. It's located on the Rhine River and surrounded by, as Colonel Carstens already mentioned, a really nice wine region called the Rheingau with many vineyards, wine estates, and also hiking trails, everything you need for a very nice afternoon in the green. And of course the Taunus Mountains, where there is more on offer on hiking, biking, or for example in the winter also a little bit of skiing at least. Across from the Rhine River is Mainz, also another state capital, as you all probably know. So it's in a region of green and cities, I think, a good place to live. Next slide, please. Wiesbaden today has about 270,000 inhabitants. It is a city with main focus in tourism, congress, and event city. We have about 1 million overnights in tourism, and the biggest market is actually the U.S. market. There is a great effort on tourism, but also to welcome you, of course, in the future to work together and share information with you. Wiesbaden today is also a famous clinic center and health resort. It dates back actually to Roman times when the Romans discovered the hot springs there, and they used those hot springs to for recreation. So today, whenever you walk around the city, you come across many fountains and hot springs, and you will see pictures later. Wiesbaden has developed in the 19th century to be the world's spa city. So the German Kaisers were there, and everybody who was important used Wiesbaden to stay and have a nice time, especially in the summer. It was called actually the Nice of the North back then, and still today. Next slide, please. The Kurhaus, actually you saw just on the first slide before, is... No, back, sorry. There's another one? Back? No, okay, that's like, yeah. The Kurhaus is actually our landmark, and within the Kurhaus, so next slide, please, there is the casino, which is really famous, and, it's supposed to be one of the nicest and most beautiful in Europe. The Kurhaus, our landmark, is surrounded by a big park, and that actually makes Wiesbaden also special. It's a very green city, so we have many parks. There is a lot of green space where people actually just walk from the walking area in the shopping zone directly to the parks, especially in the summer, to sit down and relax. Talking about the fountains, this is just, 3 pictures of it, hot springs, hot fountains. Now in the wintertime, you see the steam coming out of the ground, and that makes it really special. So you really have to go to one of the public swimming pools or spas to relax, and I can just hope that you will share that. Next slide, please. For example, there are 2 public thermal baths, and especially looking at the modern one on the right side, the thermal bath outcome, which is actually close to the housing area also, is a public swimming pool where they offer, for example, baby swimming, aqua, health, jogging. So that is also for the public a program I think that is really nice to use. Next slide, please. Here comes the courthouse again. Sorry, that was mixed up. So that is actually, again, the landmark with the big green around, and just to give you that slide. Next, please. Wiesbaden also has its own little mountain or hill within the city. It's called the Neroberg, which also has its own vineyard, actually. And on that mountain, you find a small cable car running up and down. And it's actually driven by water ballast. So it dates back to 1880, and it's really still the original one. It's just nice to share that in the summer with your family or with visitors, actually. Up on that hill, there's also a Russian church, one of the few ones here in Europe. And also a small temple where there's a restaurant close to it. So I think there's a lot to do within the city on its own little hill. Next slide, please. In the downtown center, there is, as typical in Germany, I think, a big square next to the city hall. And actually on our square, in our main square, there is every Wednesday and Saturday, there is a farmer's market for the whole morning where people can shop their groceries and also have their food. Next slide, please. But we also use our main square, for example, for one of our sports events. Wiesbaden has a huge and rich calendar, actually, of sports events. For example, here we have beach volleyball right in front of the Hessen Parliament. There's also an Ironman event every year. One of our actually biggest equestrian tournaments in Germany is the international tournament in Wiesbaden-Biebrich. So that is just to point out 3 of actually many events going on. Next slide, please. Talking about the events, of course, being in a wine region, we have to have a big wine festival. So you see that on that one picture on the top. Every year in August for 10 days, there is more than 1,000 wines to taste for 10 days. Big party, and I can just invite you all today to come in the summer in August and share that, hopefully in your first day in Wiesbaden. Well, besides that, that is not Carnival, actually, the big picture. It's the oldest street festival in Germany. It's called Theatrium, and it will take place the first weekend in June this year for the 35th time. Next slide, please. So, and of course in winter, it's not only in the summer that we celebrate. Of course we have a Christmas market. Big one, beautiful one. It's called the Twinkling Star Christmas Market, and there's also a big poppling ice skating rink right in front of the Hessian State Theater. And talking about the Kurhaus, what you see there is the big hall of the Kurhaus with a very special Christmas tree with about 2,000 flowers every year. Also very nice to look at. Next slide, please. And then just talking quickly about the Rheingau region again, there are not only famous monasteries and castles lined up along the Rhine River. You find there the gourmet temples, the hiking trails. It's just rich of history and cultures, and as I mentioned before, I can only invite you to discover it yourself. Next slide, please. And that is just another picture of monasteries and the Rhine River. And with that, next slide, please. I can only share all the information we have, and we try to get better in that as well on the English website on www.wiesbaden.de, where you also find on tourism all the information on city tours, on different themes, and things to do, how to spend your time in Wiesbaden. And with that, I would really like to thank you to share the information. Thank you.
great place to live and work. I'm Roger Gerber. I'm Director of the Stationing Management Office, and I'm very happy to be with you. We've worked hard over the last 3.5 years to get facilities ready, operational facilities, community support facilities, and housing to bring the consolidation of user command and control into Wiesbaden. 3 years ago, there were a fine display of tanks out here in this field, and today we are at 99% complete constructing the headquarters building. Great partnership with the Task Force Relocation, Colonel Seifert and his team, and with SPP, otherwise known as GR2, and John Hamilton and their team as we've done all this over the past few years. Slide. Colonel Karsten's talked about this. I'm going to focus in just a little more on the airfield and the operational facilities there and the new housing. Talk a little bit about what we're doing at Heidelberg, the community support center, plus our largest housing area, about 550 housing units. Colonel Karsten's mentioned the golf course up there. The greens and tees are under renovation. This summer you'll be able to play 18 holes, but you get to go over the first set the second time to get it right. But that'll be finished this year. This is a former small arms range. That's being developed for family recreation. We have paintball up there. We're demolishing the old ranges, and we'll have some camping sites and some other family recreation up there. Okay, slide. Little waterfall chart that we've about worn out. Pretty soon we're going to be out here and we can stop talking about it. From the time we started planning, we said that military and civilian, we could handle about 7,000 folks. With the decision to stand up 5th Corps, the modular 5th Corps, and move them to Wiesbaden last summer, that stretched our numbers a little bit, but it filled in the gap here where we were down as 1st Armored Division left. And so from a community support standpoint, schools and all of those functions that are driven by the community size, we were able to keep that a more gentle slope up to get up to what we see as our in-state population. Slide. So this is the airfield. Let me just begin with, and you saw the flyover. The access control point, that was FY11 project. We had a little help from our friends from the Protective Design Center in Omaha, and we're going to design or construct a fully compliant ACP there. As part of that, we have this bypass road that was part of our construction plan over the last 3 years. We are going to have temporary access here on the old railroad bed, so we will have good access during this construction period, and we expect to have this done by 2013. Once on post, we'll have a ring of around the installation to provide traffic over to the parking structure that you see here that Colonel Karsten's mentioned we just opened, and we'll have another parking structure here. The two main operational facilities that we're constructing, Mission Command Center is almost complete. We're starting the fit-out phase of that, and we should be breaking ground here next month on the Information Processing Center to complete the consolidation of the signal functions. We had barracks project here to get us to the 1+1 standard. That is the date of that is to be determined with the latest Milcon relook, but that's still in our plan. We do have adequate barracks. They are still at the 2+2, and so once those barracks are complete, we'll be at the 1+1. We're building a new recycle center here, conveniently located from the housing area, between the housing and work area. And then the housing area that you saw, 326 units, that we'll be able to begin occupying in June. Slide. Mission Command Center, it's the general layout is about 21 pods, we call them. It's not an acronym, it's just a pod. And it's about 50 workstations, open space with private office, 2 private offices, It's got a break room and a VTC conference room for collaborative staff work. Associated with each of those, there's a training room, briefing room, assembly area down on the first floor that can be opened up for unclassified briefings, and then the ops center that'll be about 130 workstations in there for operating for the COIT, Combined Ops and Intel Center. The parking structure was part of that, and we have completed that. Slide. Information Processing Center is down here on Signal Corner. We'll break ground on that. That's the good news. The bad news is it takes out more of the parking, thus the need for the parking structures. Associated with this project is another parking structure that will be located right up here. That will continue through the fall of 13, fit out, be able to occupy in spring of 14. Slide. Family housing. It's a combination of junior NCOs, senior NCO, company grade, field grade officers, and 6 general officer quarters. In addition, there's playgrounds for older children, TOTS playground, running track around it, and that's right on track, and we'll be able to occupy that this summer. It includes 2 sports fields. We get a baseball field and a combined field, soccer, football, and also basketball and tennis courts. Be located right up here. Okay, slide. Access control point that I mentioned, 4 lanes in, truck route, compliant ACP to meet with all the force protection requirements. During construction, we'll have some temporary access in here as well as the southern gate. So we think we have a plan to handle all of the traffic that's going in. I know that's been a concern, because if you show up on post now at about PT time, 6 o'clock, it's backed up, and again at 8 o'clock. So we're going to fix that this summer. All right, slide. Heidelberg Community Support Center, and also the largest family housing. All of these units have been renovated. They're right-sized, the larger kitchens, the laundry is upstairs, more bedrooms, 3 and 4 bedroom. So these are all ready to be occupied. We are doing some external work on some of these, sealing the basements where we had some water damage. That's ongoing and will be completed this summer. Existing facilities, there's a gas station, shopette here, 24-hour, the current PX and some of the shops here, the bank. The existing commissary is here. The plan is to build the PX here. That's under design. We'll start construction late next summer. And then in FY15, the commissary right here with a common parking area. The schools, existing high school here, 3 new facilities that are under construction. The gym has already been turned over. And then as part of, or to complete the high school in FY13, we'll complete construction of the classroom buildings. And then in 14, new elementary school and middle school here. These are unrenovated housing units that are unoccupied. The chapel is here. We have a long-range project to expand it a bit. A new community center, which would be something similar to this, where we have theater and arts and crafts. That's planned for this corner. The lodge was opened up about a year ago, 164 units, combination of some suites and single rooms. The entertainment center, 16 lanes bowling is here. That's open. And then finally, to secure all of this, today it's an open post. We're acquiring the streets from the city. We'll do that this summer. And then we have a planned access control point here, so this will be entirely secured. And slide. That concludes. Get in touch with us or go on the website. Thank you very much. I'll be followed by Dr. Schlosser, our Chief of FMWO.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bob Schlosser. I'm your fun, run, fitness guy who feels very fortunate to see all these new customers getting ready to come to Wiesbaden. The first slide you're looking at is our Community Activity Center, which is supposed to match the Village Pavillion, but unfortunately is not as large in size, but I think it's a very nice facility. The good news is that it also houses Little Italy restaurant, which puts it within walking distance of your new housing area if you live on the South Post. So this is a great place that's been around for a long time. I think that if one of our biggest fans are the Hertlings, who used to use it when it was at the American Arms, and they've been by already to test it to see that it's the same. Next slide. We have tried to take care of our single soldiers on the installation. The Your Place Bar and Grill sits right down in the middle of the single soldier barracks area. It's a great place where our troops really are hanging out. The extra nice thing about it is that we have also attached the Warrior Zone to the backside of that building with a hallway into the bar and grill so that there's easy access to food and beverage. It's filled with all the latest in electronics. We just put in a great big new screen, flat screen for the Super Bowl, which we had about 50 soldiers there rocking and rolling. So it is, in my opinion, designed to keep soldiers on post and keep them out of trouble to our best of our ability. Next slide. The Wiesbaden Fitness Center, clearly a world-class facility. It is the center of all fitness activity, much of it even for Europe. Last week we had the CYS Western finals for youth wrestling. This weekend we have the Dodds Friday and Saturday finals for wrestling, high school wrestling, which is going to be a great venue. We run 4 mats going out there one time. It will be in another month. We have inherited the Dodds basketball cheerleading championships, and we will be running 4 venues simultaneously for 4 or 5 days for that event. So I think that one of the good things is as these events have moved to Wiesbaden, it's let us train up on expanding out. And as a matter of fact, for the Dodds basketball, we're actually using 2 German facilities as well, very nice venues, and I think it represents the close relationship we have with the city. I'd also like to say that we are getting ready to turn out all of our cardio equipment within the next 2 months so that by the time you arrive, it should be all brand new equipment. For the families upstairs, we have a beautiful family fitness room where a single parent can bring their child and work out privately up there and have their child in a play area which keeps them safe and out of the rest of the facility. So I think we've worked very hard at trying to accommodate everyone. Next slide. The golf course. I'm an old Heidelberger. I've played your wonderful flat course here. Be prepared to get in shape. I recommend you bring your walking cart because for some reason we have managed to put 18 holes all uphill. I kept waiting for the downhill side, and I don't think we ever found one. The good news is that we've pumped about $9 million into this facility over the last 10 years. 1.3 going in right now, as Roger Gerber said, to upgrade all of our greens. A wonderful golf architect who has seen all those places where your ball just runs into the woods no matter how well you drive. And he is fixing those kinds of things. We have a German partnership club, a very high-class group of people. So it is a wonderful venue. You can tell from its title, Rheinblick, that in its day before all the wonderful trees have grown up, you used to be able to see the Rhine from the clubhouse. This clubhouse is a wonderful venue for meetings, and we showed Colonel Carstens our plans to develop the downstairs area into a conference room with all of the latest in communications gear, projection, et cetera. So come out and play this golf course. We want you out there. Next slide. 2 new great facilities. Let's start with the one on the left, at least it's on my left, which is the Wiesbaden Army Entertainment Center. It has 16 of the most modern lanes in Germany. It was just opened about a year ago. It is a two-story place. The kids rock and roll downstairs. It has conference rooms that will take 120 people, dividable up into three separate conference rooms. Upstairs is an over 18 facility with a big bar, a great place for right arm nights, and a good place to gather. We have about 10 flat screen TVs up there, so it's a wonderful place to watch sports events. For the Super Bowl, we put in a big projection screen and had a crowd of about 150 people. So it's a place to come out and have fun. The good news, it sits right across from our new 164-room lodge. And the lodge then is perfectly located with a very large parking lot, playground, and all you have to do is walk across the street and spend your money at our Wiesbaden Entertainment Center. So, and it is a busy place with the kind of growth that's going on. It is very easy to find that the lodge is filled. We have partnerships with a number of downtown hotels, and we work those arrangements out for you. Next slide. Outdoor rec. We do all the things that you do here. One of the nice things that Colonel Carson is going to be able to do during his time in command is that we have a beautiful old 300-meter military range that we were able to hang on to that sits on the same road on the way to the golf course. We have 2 speedball paintball courts up there, plus a woodland range. The scouts use it. We've got great plans to develop that into camping. The high school also runs up there cross country. It adjoins a wonderful woodland that runs the whole ridge line. So it's just a great place that hopefully you'll come out and enjoy. Next slide. I put this on because I think that as we look at unit cohesion efforts that are going on as people return from overseas, FRGs, FRSAs, we have a good host of buses where we will be happy to host your special tours, give you some great prices, and get you out of the concern and out and about. And we're working with Wiesbaden Marketing, Rudesheim Marketing, Mainz Marketing, Eltville Marketing to try and develop a greater array of opportunities for you to get out and about, to include Rhine River cruises. Next slide. Arts and crafts, big-time business, growing. Eric Kramer, we stole him from Heidelberg about a year and a half ago, and he is developing a host of new programs for families to participate in. It's a facility that, in my opinion, rocks and rolls, very profitable, which to me shows that we have an awful lot of use of that facility. Next slide. Auto Skills. Our Auto Skills sits in a building on Mainz-Cassel, has 16 bays, a German building of 1935 vintage. The good news is that we will open up this summer if Roger and his merry men operate on time with a new 10-bay facility right on Wiesbaden Army Airfield, which makes it so much easier for everybody to be able to have access without that drive out to Mainz-Cassel. So it's going to be a first-class operation with a first-class team. Next slide. ACS, we do all the things that your Army Community Service does, just recently accredited again with, by the way, no deficiencies. One of the big things that we are doing to ensure that we welcome all of you into our community is that we are running a 2.5-day Welcome to Wiesbaden Cultural College, which includes trips downtown. If you're new to Germany, how to ride on the bus, how to read the schedule, how to use the Hauptbahnhof and the wonderful train system. And we wrap it up with a 2.5-hour blitz on a Wednesday morning in our entertainment center. And we try and ensure that all those things that you may have forgotten that you are supposed to do while you're in Germany, we bring everybody in and really hit you hard with a free lunch, etc., trying to attract everybody to find out what's going on. Next slide. Again, ACS, the nice thing about ACS is it sits right across from the Army Lodge. So when you need to get ready to move into new quarters, you can come over there, get your loaner kit, do all those things. ACS has a big meet and greet, job fair operation, free computers. Anything that you want that ACS has here is suddenly at your fingertips when you initially come into the installation. Next slide. Child and Youth Services, please go on. Next. What we're showing here is our current number of facilities. You'll note the HBG stands for Heidelberg, so that's up in our main housing area at the moment, and you'll see what the capacities are. We are getting ready to open up a additional CDC that is the one on the bottom vacant. It'll be open up next month. On WAF, we have 2 CDCs and a school-age services operation. We have a wonderful teen center on Heidelberg. We competed 2 years ago against all teen centers in the Department of Defense, and we won a $100,000 award from the Boys and Girls Club for the great facility. General Hertling and Mrs. Hertling have been in that facility. It has all the latest stuff, sound room, the works. Just a great place for our youth to be. Next slide. The other good news about CDCs is that the waiting list, which you see, infants only, we had 9 last Friday that came out of nowhere. It must have been a wonderful birth week. But the bottom line is we're down to 3. You'll see that we have 6 family child care homes about to open. We're picking up 2 or 3 in the next few days. So at this moment in time, we have no backlog as far as children getting in the child development centers. Next slide. Skies and Edge, both very active programs, and you see these pictures of the Skies with jazz, hip-hop, and guitar. Be aware that we have done everything: golf, wall climbing, archery, and on and on. Both of these programs will accommodate what you want. So all you have to do is talk to our CYS folks, and we will accommodate you. Next slide. This is how you reach us. We're very accessible. And before I close, I would like to just put in a plug that on the 31st of March, for all of the runners out there, we will be running what we call the Freedom Run. It will be a 10-miler, a 5-miler, and a half-miler for children. And what is neat about this is it's sponsored by Andrews Federal Credit Union, and it is a partnership run with the Cherry Blossom Festival Run, which is going on in Washington at the same time. And that is sold out if you wanted to go back and run in Washington. So come and join us for really a great venue, and it'll give you a chance to see Wiesbaden on foot. And that wraps me up. Thank you very much for your attention.
Good afternoon. Frank Rail, Superintendent.